Back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
And holy flying flippin' flapjacks, it's your boy Taco Bell Wani, and we are about to get updated with everything UFC 223. These have been the craziest 5 or 6 days in MMA history. Everything revolving this Brooklyn card has just been insane. We started off with Tony Ferguson versus Khabib being canceled, Max Holloway taking the fight on short notice. Now we've had Conor McGregor madness. We've seen the incident. Now there's been 3 fights canceled. There's been talks of including the main event. You know, Max Holloway, who replaced Tony Ferguson on short notice, couldn't make the... We're going to start at the beginning, give you guys a quick rundown for everybody that's just tuning in now to all the drama that is what's happened. Now you might be wondering, how is Iaquinta, who was supposed to be fighting Paul Felder on this card, now fighting Khabib? We've heard Iaquinta in the past say, I'm not fighting Khabib unless they're paying me $2 or $3 million. Did you see what he did to Edson Barboza's face? That was Iaquinta's words. He said, yo, I'm not fighting that guy unless you're paying me millions. Well, now look who he's in the cage with, that guy. But he might have got millions, honestly. You got to pay. Iaquinta's a guy that knows his worth. He's shown that even before a situation like this where you really need him. Even when Iaquinta was just, you know, a fighter, he was looking at like, yo, I'm not, you know, I'll do real estate. I don't have to fight. I want my, he's a guy that kind of knows his worth. So I'm sure for Iaquinta to be stepping up in this main event, he's probably getting paid a pretty penny, because also he's weighed in at 155.2, but they didn't give him the extra time to cut championship weight because nobody knew he was going to be fighting for the title. So he can't fight for the belt because of the stipulation he had that .2. So a guy who knows his worth, that you're not going to give him the opportunity to fight for the actual belt since he barely missed weight on and it wasn't like he knew he was fighting for the title. He made weight, but not championship weight. But he wasn't fighting for a title, so he didn't need to make championship weight. But now he can't fight for the title. You want him to fight Khabib. And I'm probably not, maybe they're working him in pay-per-view points. I'm sure he'll probably get some pay-per-view points. But Iaquinta's probably going to walk away from this with a cool $1 million or $2 million. Or even more, who knows? And then go back to real estate, got some more money to play with in real estate. Iaquinta might be coming out on top here. Well, he might be on bottom during the fight. But everything else, Iaquinta's holding a little bit of a W. So, long story short, a week of insane madness that I'm about to go over. But long story short, Tony Ferguson was supposed to be fighting Khabib. He got injured. Max Holloway, featherweight champion, stepped in. 6 days later, he couldn't make weight. 3 fights were canceled due to the McGregor madness. He came, broke windows. 2 fighters were injured. His teammate was involved. Those 3 fights were canceled. So now they've got to take another fight from the card, which was Iaquinta versus Paul Felder, and plug Iaquinta into the title fight, which means Paul Felder now can't fight, which means 4 fights are now canceled. You know, 6 days ago, there were 4 more cards on this event. Now there were 13 fights. Now there's 9 fights. So with that being said, that's long story short. Now we got Iaquinta fighting for the title. He can't win the belt, but he's still fighting. If Khabib wins, he becomes the champion. That's a whole nother story in itself, because you think, well, Tony Ferguson was the interim champion. People gave Tony Ferguson shit because when he won the belt from Kevin Lee. Well, Kevin Lee was ranked higher than Iaquinta, to be fair. So with that being said, that's long story short. Now, for everybody that wants to hear the full story of the madness, let's just cover that on this same video. You can click off now if you were wondering how Iaquinta's fighting for the title. So let's start with April Fool's UFC 223 real fast. Tony Ferguson was supposed to fight Khabib. This was the 4th time the fight was put together. Khabib pulled out twice. Tony Ferguson had pulled out once in the past, and everyone was like, man, fingers crossed, I hope this fight actually happens. Tony Ferguson has a freak accident. Now they've both pulled out twice. Tony Ferguson's no longer in the main event, and now Khabib is going to be fighting Max Holloway, the featherweight champion. A lot of people thought Max Holloway shouldn't take the fight because he was already had an ankle injury, recent ankle injury he was trying to heal up from, but it was a win-win. You know, yeah, he might lose the fight, but he's going to get pay-per-view points, and he doesn't lose his featherweight title, and if he wins, he becomes the champ. So it was like, yo, Max Holloway, props for stepping up. But the problem is he had to make weight on 6 days. Well, Max Holloway starts cutting weight immediately, of course, and then the Conor McGregor incident happens. Well, first the Khabib in the hotel happens. So Conor McGregor's teammate was walking in the hotel lobby where the UFC fighters are. Khabib Nurmagomedov and his crew find Conor McGregor's teammate, and they're like, yo, weren't you talking some trash? He's like, no, I wasn't talking no trash. And they're like, no, yeah, you were. But it was like, you know, 1 or 2 versus like 15, so they had to go away. Well, Conor McGregor's teammate, it looks like, might have called Conor McGregor like, yo, can you believe these dudes just confronted me in the hallway? They just, you know, they had like 15 dudes. It was just me and him. And so Conor McGregor's teammates now show up to retaliate on Khabib's team that they wanted Khabib's, so they attack the fighter vans and throwing trash cans and barricades. Well, one dipshit actually picks up a hand truck or a dolly and breaks a window. That broken window, the shards end up touching a couple fighters, maybe a couple scratches, maybe a couple cuts. And now the fighters might be looking at it like, yo, this is my opportunity to sue for millions of dollars because I just got injured, my fight's canceled, lost wages, Conor McGregor did all this stuff, so they might want to sue Conor McGregor. So now, even if it was just a scratch, their fights are canceled because they might want to sue Conor now. So if I don't fight, that adds to my lawsuit. So now Conor McGregor has to get arrested. The UFC's pissed off. 3 fights are canceled. Conor McGregor turns himself in with one of his friends. The court and all of that happens today, the day of the weigh-ins. Come to find out, the fighters that were injured, as well as a couple civilians, had to not press charges, but they had to get a restraining order on Conor and his boy, probably because part of the lawsuit. You know, if you're going to be suing somebody that, you know, broke a window and you're going to be suing that person, it probably looks better in your lawsuit to have a restraining order on that person. So now 2 fighters and 2 other people have to get restraining orders on Conor McGregor and his friend who was arrested with him or went into custody with him. And so now those 3 fights are canceled. Well, this morning also, Max Holloway, who took the fight on 6 days notice, can't make weight. So now the UFC still needs a new opponent for Khabib. Anthony Pettis is originally going to step in. But Anthony Pettis, it looks like, either weighed 155.2 or Anthony Pettis was asking for more money and the UFC didn't offer more money. Something like that. For whatever reason, Anthony Pettis doesn't get to take the fight. So now Paul Felder's like, I'll take the fight. No, Paul Felder can't take the fight, the commission says, because he's unranked. Kevin Lee was on the way in town, another ranked fighter, because he had a media obligation in Brooklyn today. His plane gets grounded in Las Vegas, so not only could he not take the fight, he's not going to be able to attend his presser. So now there's one guy left who can really take the fight, and it's Iaquinta. Iaquinta is supposed to be fighting Paul Felder already. Iaquinta is the only New Yorker on the card, though, just happens to be. Iaquinta knows his worth. You're going to have to give, if you got to give Anthony Pettis more money, you got to give Iaquinta more money. Iaquinta is not a businessman. He's not a company guy. He will sit out of fights if it means fucking, he will renegotiate his contracts. He will go do real estate. He doesn't really give 2 fucks about fighting. He wants to fight, but he knows his worth. So if you're going to get Iaquinta in on short notice, and he can't fight for the title, he's probably going to ask for a couple million. So I'm sure they had to cut a check for Iaquinta. So with that being said, that's what they went with, Iaquinta over Anthony Pettis, which was the original report. I don't know how much more Anthony Pettis wanted than Iaquinta, or if that's what's going on, or why Iaquinta got it over Pettis. But either way, I do think this is probably a better matchup. But with that being said, now we've got to talk about all the people that said Kevin Lee's title wasn't legit because he beat, or Tony Ferguson's title wasn't legit because he beat the 7th ranked Kevin Lee for an interim title. Well, now Khabib is fighting for an undisputed title, and he's not fighting the interim or the real champion. So now Khabib's going to be a champion, a UFC undisputed lightweight champion, essentially for beating like the number 10th ranked guy in Iaquinta. Which that don't look good. You know, that sucks for Khabib. Nobody wants to win the title that way. There's going to be a lot of people that say Khabib's not a real champion, you know, and he's going to have the belt. But we've seen this with other fighters. Daniel Cormier, he didn't beat John Jones. They said he's not the champion. Khabib, if he would have beat Max Holloway, at least he beat a champion. If he would have beat Anthony Pettis, he beat a former champion. If he would have beat Tony Ferguson, he beat the interim champion. You know, but if he beats Iaquinta, he just beat the 10th ranked guy that, you know, wasn't even at championship weight. But now Khabib's going to be the champion. And so it just kind of sucks that it had to play out like this. But at the same time, the fact that Iaquinta's stepping up, that makes the fight better than if it was like a Max Holloway. Because Iaquinta is a guy that he's got 4 knockouts out of his last 5 fights. Everyone says if you're going to beat Khabib, you got to knock him out before he starts ragdolling you. Max Holloway was coming off of an injury, the smaller guy, not really known for knocking dudes out specifically, and he's smaller. So now, and I think now we even got the better match. Even Anthony Pettis, he's not known for being great against wrestlers. If Anthony Pettis got the fight, people would probably expect him to get ragdolled like Holloway. But Iaquinta brings some fresh, young lightweight blood in there. He was already scheduled to fight, already had a fight camp, knocks guys out. Now we got a really good fight on our hands. You know what I'm saying? It's actually a good fight. But to get to this point, and Iaquinta's from New York. On top of that, the lone New Yorker on the card now in the main event, even though he doesn't get to fight for the title, which is unfortunate. But either way, man, this is the madness that is the UFC today. We've still got UFC 223 tomorrow, the fights. I mean, it's like we've got more drama out of the week than we could have from like 2 weekends worth of fights alone. We still got results tomorrow. We can still see crazy knockouts, crazy submissions, crazy wars, brawls. We can still see upsets tomorrow. There's so much stuff that could happen tomorrow, and we're already fucking like, yo, our brain is already crammed with everything that's been going on. So with that being said, it is what it is. I might do another live stream later, man. Who knows? Maybe another video, but this is what's been going on. Khabib versus Iaquinta is set to fight for the official UFC lightweight title. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. I'm out. And as always, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell right next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. I'm out.
Da 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 da. It's the motherfucking DOG.